All right, so we're diving into the Da Vinci Code today. Looks like we've got a pretty good stack of stuff to go through. You ready to decode this whole thing?
Definitely. Yeah, it's a book that seems to just kind of grab everyone's attention. And I think it's really interesting how it takes history and art and then throws religion and conspiracy into the mix.
It's a wild ride from page one, that's for sure. I mean, you get thrown right into it with Robert Langdon, this Harvard symbologist,
Oh, yeah.
which, just so everyone knows, that's like an expert in symbols, and what they mean. He gets caught up in this whole murder investigation at the Louvre.
And it's not just any murder, right? It's the curator of the Louvre. And he leaves all these clues behind that point to Da Vinci's artwork.
It's like a treasure hunt, but with famous masterpieces. You've got the Mona Lisa, the Last Supper.
Yeah, it's really clever how Brown uses those familiar pieces. It's like he's opening this secret world hidden within art we all know.
And then, of course, you have Sophie Neveu joining in, this French cryptologist who teams up with Langdon.
That adds a whole other dimension for sure.
Especially when you find out her connection to the whole thing.
Right, and she's not just there as a helper. She's really smart, good at what she does. And that cryptography stuff, decoding messages, that becomes super important.
Essential, yeah.
As they go deeper, they find out about this secret society called the Priory of Sion.
Oh, yeah, that's a whole rabbit hole right there.
It's like a mystery wrapped in an enigma,
Mm.
both in the book and in the real world.
That's what's so crazy about this book. It blends fact and fiction so well. It takes these real historical things, groups, and makes them part of this story. And talking about mixing things up, the whole Holy Grail thing in the book, that really flips what most people think on its head.
Oh, absolutely. It's not like the cup everyone usually pictures. It's more of a symbol in the Da Vinci Code. Even potentially like a bloodline from, Jesus and Mary Magdalene.
I can see why that caused a lot of controversy.
A huge debate, especially about how Christianity started and all that.
Yeah. It's amazing how a book can spark such intense discussion, It makes you think about history and religion in a whole new way.
Totally. Brown isn't just telling a story. He's making people question what they thought was true and consider other possibilities.
And he does it with such interesting characters. You've got Langdon, super smart, always analyzing, using logic and knowledge to solve the clues.
Then there's Sophie. She's more about intuition, right? Trusting her gut and using her personal connections to guide her.
And they work so well together. They each have their strengths, weaknesses, and they learn from each other. Like two sides of the same coin when it comes to figuring things out.
It's a really great dynamic, yeah. And then you have Leigh Teabing.
Yeah.
Rich historian who seems like he wants to help Langdon and Sophie. But you can't help but wonder, what's his real motive?
Yeah, every time he pops up, I get suspicious. Like, is he friend or foe?
It keeps you guessing for sure.
Yeah.
And then you have Silas, the albino monk, driven by faith, but in a way that shows how dangerous blind faith can be.
His actions are definitely unsettling.
Makes you think about the complex nature of religion, how it can be twisted.
It adds a whole other layer to the story. It contrasts with the more intellectual and spiritual journey that Langdon and Sophie are on.
Yeah, like a dark side to faith. Reminds you that knowledge, belief, they can be used for good or evil.
Speaking of knowledge, one of the things that fascinates me about this book is how it shows how powerful hidden information can be. Like the Priory of Sion, they're the guardians of secrets. And the whole plot revolves around uncovering what they're hiding.
Makes you wonder, what else is out there? What secrets have been hidden throughout history, like right under our noses?
It's like Brown is saying we all need to be more like Langdon. Look beyond what's obvious, question what we think we know.
Absolutely. It's about being curious, thinking critically, and realizing there might be other interpretations out there.
Being open to different perspectives, yeah.
Like history is often told from one point of view, maybe there are other sides to the story waiting to be found.
So we have this exciting thriller plot, compelling characters, thought-provoking themes. But what really sets the Da Vinci Code apart is its impact on the real world. It's not just a book, it's a cultural phenomenon. It started conversations, debates, even made people want to visit the places mentioned.
Yeah, it had a tangible effect for sure. People suddenly wanted to see the Louvre, Westminster Abbey, Rosslyn Chapel. Not just as tourist spots, but places filled with mystery and intrigue.
It's like the book gave them a new way of seeing those landmarks.
Sparked their imaginations.
Made them think about the hidden stories behind the art and architecture.
And let's not forget the whole Holy Grail debate, especially within religious communities. Some were intrigued by the book's take on it, while others condemned it.
It's wild how one book can create such polarizing responses. It shows the power stories have to challenge what people believe.
Absolutely. Whether people agree with Brown's interpretations or not, he got them talking about history and religion in a way that was engaging and easy to understand.
He made art history and symbolism relevant to a much wider audience.
For sure. Like, he opened a door to a whole new world for many readers.
That's what makes the Da Vinci Code so captivating. It's not just a story, it's a gateway to hidden knowledge, secret societies, alternative versions of history.
Yeah, it really makes you stop and think, what if we're surrounded by symbols and hidden meanings, just waiting for someone to decode them?
It makes you want to pay more attention, doesn't it? Like, maybe there are secret messages right in front of us, we just haven't learned to see them yet.
Right. And speaking of codes and messages, that's one of the things I love about the Da Vinci Code. All the puzzles and symbolism Brown uses. He doesn't just give you the clues, he challenges the reader to solve them right along with Langdon and Sophie.
I loved that. You're not just reading the story, you're trying to crack the code too. Remember that scene in the Louvre with Langdon analyzing those symbols on the floor, trying to figure out how they connect to Da Vinci's work?
Oh, yeah.
I felt like I was right there with him, trying to piece it all together.
Totally. And those moments are all over the book. It keeps you on the edge of your seat, wondering what's going to happen next. And it's not just about solving the little clues. It's about understanding the big picture, the whole conspiracy.
And that mix of brain power and action, that's what makes this book so unique. You're learning about art, history, religion, but you're also caught up in this exciting chase, trying to stay ahead of the bad guys.
It's like a masterclass in suspense.
Mm.
Brown keeps you hooked, mentally and emotionally. I think that's why so many people connected with it. It's more than just a book, it's an experience.
Totally agree. And you mentioned earlier the book sparked a lot of debate, especially about its portrayal of Christianity. What did you think? Were you convinced by Brown's interpretations or more skeptical?
It's a good question. I think it's important to keep in mind it's fiction. Brown's playing with history and religion to create a good story.
Right.
Some of his takes on events and people might be controversial, but I think his main goal is to make the reader think.
To question things, yeah.
Exactly. He's not saying this is the absolute truth. He's giving you another way to look at things, challenging you to dig deeper and make up your own mind.
I like that, making people think for themselves.
That's where the real value is, I think. It starts conversations, makes people want to learn more.
The Da Vinci Code definitely did that. It got people fascinated by art history, religious symbols, the mysteries of the past.
For sure, people were looking at Da Vinci's paintings differently, trying to find hidden meanings. They were researching the Priory of Sion, debating that whole bloodline theory. It's amazing how one book can have such a ripple effect.
It's not just about the story itself, it's about the discussions it starts, the questions it raises, the way it changes how we see the world.
Absolutely, and even though some people said the book got history and religion wrong, there's no denying it got people interested in those subjects again. It made them want to learn more, do their own research.
And isn't that what learning is all about? Not just accepting what we're told, but searching for knowledge ourselves, questioning things, having thoughtful debates.
Exactly. And in that way, even though it's fiction, I think the Da Vinci Code made people more curious and inquisitive. It reminded us that there's always more to learn, more to discover.
And it did it in a way that was fun and easy to understand. Brown mixed these complex historical and religious ideas with an exciting thriller plot. It's a book that appealed to so many different people.
Yeah, he's a great storyteller, that's for sure. He knows how to keep you guessing, keep you coming back for more. And even though not everyone agrees with his ideas, I think most would say the Da Vinci Code makes you think, A&D keeps you entertained.
It's interesting that even though the book came out a while ago, people are still talking about it, still finding it relevant. Why do you think that is?
Well, I think the questions it asks are timeless. You know, like, what is truth? What do we believe? What's the power of secrets? How do art and symbols shape our understanding of the world? Those questions never really go away.
That's a good point. And in today's world, where we're flooded with information, some of it true, some not, I think the book's message about being careful what you believe is even more important.
Yeah, it encourages us to be more critical, to question what we see and hear, not just take things at face value.
To look for different viewpoints, different sources.
It's about having a critical eye, a little bit of skepticism, and being willing to have those tough conversations.
Those are really important skills, especially now. So we've talked about the plot, the characters, the themes, the book's impact on the world. What about the ending, without spoiling too much? How did you feel about how Brown wrapped up the story?
Well, I don't want to ruin it for anyone who hasn't read it,
Mm-hmm.
but I'd say it's both satisfying and makes you think. It ties up the loose ends, answers some of the big questions. You feel like the story has reached its natural conclusion.
But it also leaves you wanting more, right? It's like the journey doesn't end when you close the book.
Exactly. It encourages you to keep exploring, keep asking questions, to find your own truth.
That's a pretty powerful message.
It is. It reminds us that learning never really stops. There's always something new to discover, something new to understand.
And that's maybe the most valuable lesson from the Da Vinci Code. It's not just a story. It's an invitation to be more curious about the world, to think about things in new ways.
It reminds us there's beauty and mystery all around us, just waiting for us to find it.
Yeah, it really makes you realize how much we might be missing, like all this history just beneath the surface.
It's true, and I think sometimes we need a little push to get us thinking about it, something like the Da Vinci Code.
And speaking of things that get people thinking, we can't ignore all the controversy this book caused, especially within religious communities.
Definitely. A lot of people had strong reactions to how Brown portrayed Christianity. The whole Mary Magdalene thing, the Holy Grail, it challenged some pretty deeply held beliefs.
Yeah, when you start reimagining such important parts of someone's faith, it's bound to spark some debate.
Absolutely, and I think it's important to acknowledge those feelings and, have those conversations respectfully. Even though it's a fictional story, Brown did draw from some real theories and ideas, things scholars and theologians have been discussing for centuries.
It's amazing how he took those ideas and made them into this captivating story, a story that millions of people connected with. Agree or disagree, there's no doubt he got people talking.
Oh, definitely. And that's part of what makes the Da Vinci Code so interesting, even today. It's not just a story. It's a new way to look at history, religion, and what we believe.
It makes you realize that history isn't always objective. It's often told from the perspective of those in power.
Exactly. And there might be other stories, other perspectives that have been silenced or forgotten.
And the Da Vinci Code encourages us to think critically about all that, to question authority, to seek out different points of view.
It's about empowering ourselves to be more than just passive readers.
To be active, to analyze, to form our own conclusion.
Exactly. And I think that's so important, especially now, when there's so much information out there, but not all of it is accurate.
So much to sift through, so much to be cautious about. So as we wrap up our deep dive into the Da Vinci Code, what final thoughts would you leave our listener with?
I think even though it's a work of fiction, the Da Vinci Code shows us that the line between fact and fiction can be blurry. It reminds us to look at history and our beliefs with a critical eye, to be open to different ideas, different perspectives, and most importantly, to never stop questioning.
To always be curious, to always be searching for the truth.
Exactly. And who knows, maybe it'll inspire you to look at the world around you a little differently and ask yourself, what secrets are hiding right in front of me?
That's a great question to ponder. It seems like we've given our listener plenty to think about. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
It was my pleasure.